Hello, everyone, and welcome to the High School History Podcast. Today we will be discussing the French and Indian War, also known as the 7 Years' War. This conflict was global, lasting from 1756 to 1763, involving the nations of Great Britain, France, Prussia, Austria, Russia, Spain, Portugal, Sweden, and the split Holy Roman Empire. For the sake of this video, we will be focusing on the New World and Europe. We will do so by answering the question, how did this conflict start, and by analyzing the politics, history, territory, and economics of these individual nations. Let's get started. Conflict 1. Great Britain versus France. Great Britain and France had been competing with one another for control over North America since the halt of Spanish and Portuguese expansion in the continent. This drive for colonization was started by a variety of factors, including overpopulation, new economic prospects, and religious influence. The more colonies and territory an empire possessed, the more power it can obtain. This power allowed nations like Great Britain, who weren't part of the continental European hierarchy, to take charge and challenge France, who was considered the most powerful in Europe. Challenging the title was not uncommon, and it had led to similar smaller-scale conflicts such as the War for Spanish Succession. However, the only real way to keep prestige in Europe was to have a powerful army and a great economy. An excellent way of maintaining this power was to hold on to strategic areas such as the hotly contested Ohio River Valley. Great Britain and France had territorial disputes over the region because of its lush farmland and strategic positioning to finding a waterway from the Atlantic to the Pacific Ocean. France and Great Britain placed forts along the territory to establish further claims to the land, forcing a stalemate in the region. They tried to overcome this stalemate by enlisting natives on either side. Also, due to the positioning of France's colonies, Great Britain had no way of competing with France for a Pacific sea route, causing another grievance for Great Britain. Conflict 2. Prussia versus Sweden, Austria, the Holy Roman Empire, and Russia. The Prussians had been a meaningless state in the Holy Roman Empire throughout the 17th century, until Frederick I, who had made the state an economic and militaristic power until his death in 1773. The successor, Frederick the Great, came to the throne in 1740, seizing the Holy Roman Empire and Austrian lands, consolidating the empire through the wars of Austrian succession, the Second Silesian War. The Austrians and other smaller German states within the Holy Roman Empire were aggrieved by this and were challenged by a rising power in the European hierarchy. Sweden had lost most of its territory to Russia in the Great Northern War, lasting from 1700 to 1721, and wanted more territory, especially in the Holy Roman Empire. Russia was on a roll from winning the Great Northern War and continued expansion in Siberia. Russia wished to continue its expansion and obtain more warm water ports besides St. Petersburg. Russia, Sweden, Prussia, and Austria wished to further expand their empires, creating competed interests within the same territory. Conflict 3. Great Britain and Portugal versus Spain. Spain and Portugal had been rivals since the 14th century in terms of colonization, but they've had a way to settle this rivalry through the treaties of Tordesillas and Zaragoza, allowing Portuguese to settle in Asia and Africa, with the exception of Brazil, and Spain would settle the New World with the exception of the Philippines. These treaties didn't apply for other colonizers such as Great Britain and France in the Americas, putting the Spanish at a disadvantage, while the Portuguese had more of an advantage because they only had to compete with smaller nations such as the Dutch Republic. The Spanish were still angry with Great Britain for the destruction of the Spanish Armada nearly 150 years prior to this war and the spread of Protestantism in their North American colonies, which usually spilled over into the Spanish colonies. Spain was still upset in 1386, and they wanted between the alliance between Great Britain and Portugal in 1386, and they wanted Great British territory in Northern America. Spain was wary of a rising British power in the European hierarchy, allowing them to side with France against this rising threat. Great Britain wanted the Spanish Floridian territory, and Portugal wanted to secure its Brazilian borders. In conclusion, there are these three conflicts were mostly caused over aggrieved nations, competing expansion, and a change in the European hierarchy. These events and grievances formed the alliances and sides during the 7 Years' War. Next video we will be discussing the start of the conflict and the conflict itself. So subscribe if you wish to see more, and like the video if you enjoyed today's lesson. Please leave a comment if you want to see more content and help me improve the quality of my videos. Also, all sources will be included in the description. Take care everyone, and have a good day.